So who are paralegals? Paralegals are an integral part of the legal industry in Canada. They are well educated and are also licensed by the Law Society of Ontario to practice as a paralegal. Now, they can practice certain matters, but are not allowed to practice all types of matters, and we can go into that in a bit more detail later. But today I want to talk about how to become a paralegal in Ontario. I know that as a foreign law graduate, when you move to Canada and you're wondering what other pathways do I have, you may want to look at the paralegal program if this is something that you're interested in. So I'll start talking by what are some of the areas that paralegals can practice. And second, I will move on to talking about how to become a paralegal in Ontario. So paralegals are able to provide affordable legal services, and they also reduce self-represented individuals in court and in litigation. So if somebody in Canada or in Ontario has to go to court and they don't have that much money to hire a lawyer, or they're unable to hire legal services from a lawyer, they can look for a paralegal. And the paralegal are licensed by the Law Society of Ontario, so they have the education, they have the credentials, and they are held to a high standard of professionalism. Paralegals are able to take on cases in small claims court for either money owed or property damage up to 35,000 Canadian dollars. So if there's an issue in small claims court, which could be a breach of contract, unpaid invoices, personal injury, up to $35,000, a paralegal is able to can represent the clients and is able to practice that specific area of the law. Paralegals are also able to take on certain Ontario Court of Justice cases. For example, certain criminal cases that are under 5,000 Canadian dollars, for example, theft. So they can research on the matters, they can represent the clients, and they're able to serve the clients, but it has to be under 5,000 Canadian dollars. Paralegals may also represent at a tribunal, for example, if there are cases related to workplace safety insurance, any sort of social benefits that have been denied, they should be able to take those cases as well. Paralegals are also able to take on cases at certain provincial levels and generally speaking would be able to assist in cases such as traffic issues, somebody not obeying traffic rules, driver's license suspenses, or any sort of issues on the road. They should be able to take some of those matters. And one of the last things that I want to discuss is notary services. So paralegals are also able to notarize certain documents. Notarizing basically means that you have to check the authenticity of a document and you attest that this document is in fact accurate, and there's a procedure to do so. So these are certain types of areas that that paralegals are able to practice, and I will put a link in the description box below to help you understand so you can read up on it on your own. Moving on to how to become a paralegal in Ontario. There are certain requirements that you have to fulfill to get licensed by the Law Society of Ontario. Now remember, there are two different types of licenses. So when we say that somebody is a lawyer, they have a lawyer license. If somebody's a paralegal, they have a paralegal license, which is generally called a P1 license in Ontario. The first step, if you want to become a paralegal, is to graduate from an accredited school and finish a paralegal program. Now that program could be either a diploma or it could also be a graduate certificate. I will put a link to see some of the programs that are accredited by the Law Society of Ontario, meaning that Law Society accepts those programs. So if you do enroll yourself in those programs, you are able to complete that requirement. Now, there are two components. One is completing the program, and then the other component is also doing a field placement. Very similar to the lawyer licensing process where you have to do articling. Here it is a field placement where you have to work under paralegal under supervision. And so you have to complete both these requirements. I did some research, and one of the colleges that I looked up, and one of the more famous colleges, is Centennial College. And I looked it up just to sort of talk a bit about what the program is like. So Centennial College, it has a graduate certificate for the paralegal program. It is a one-year program, and I'm only talking about it just so that you get an idea, but you can obviously do your own research. There are a lot of other schools that offer these programs. So just as an example, Centennial College, it has a one-year paralegal program. And in order to get into this program, you need to have 2 years of education. So it could be college education, or you could have an undergrad, it doesn't matter. And there are different courses that are offered that are accredited by the Law Society of Ontario. The other thing to note is fees. So the paralegal program, I was looking it up, and the fees are very different for domestic students and international students. And there's a very high difference. Domestic students at Centennial College pay about $5,000 fees for the program, whereas international students pay 25,000 Canadian dollars, which is very, very high. So something to keep in mind, if somebody is a foreign trained lawyer and they're not, they come to Canada and they're a student, just to keep in mind, like the LLM, some of the LLM programs also cost around 25,000 Canadian dollars. So it's really, is it worth doing the paralegal program when you can actually do an LLM in the same amount of money? So sometimes when people would ask me, like, should I become a paralegal? Cost is one of the things that you have to also consider. These graduate certificate programs are not cheap, but rather when I did the research, I was actually kind of shocked to see that it was $25,000. The next step, once you complete a program of study and are also done your placement, you also have to write paralegal licensing exam, similar to the bar exams. Now, for paralegals, you only have to write one exam. It's also an open book exam, multiple choice questions, and you have to register with the Law Society of the province that you want to practice in. You must write the exam, and you have to purchase study materials from the Law Society of Ontario. Once you pass the exam, you then have to make sure that you have a good character. Good character is also part of the lawyer licensing process. What it basically means is that you've never had any criminal record, you don't have any other issues in the past, or like any fraud or misrepresentation, all of that, you must be clean. So anytime you get licensed with the Law Society of Ontario, you need to have a good character, and you sort of disclose, and you have to sign a declaration. So that's the third thing for the paralegal programs. So once you pass the exam and you've done your placement and you graduate from the accredited college, and then you can apply and pay the fees to the Law Society to get your license as a paralegal. And again, it's called a P1 license. I talked very briefly and generally about the paralegal program. I don't know if you're interested in learning more about it. I can certainly have a paralegal on my channel and sort of talk to them about what are some of the benefits of being a paralegal and some of the things that you should consider before becoming a paralegal. If you're interested, please let me know. But overall, I think that being a paralegal is a very respected profession. You are licensed, you have to go through rigorous training, and if you are somebody who wants to be in the legal profession, but you're not too set on practicing certain areas or certain things, paralegals do have the rights to practice certain areas that I talked about. A lot of them have like a limit. For example, like I said, in small claims court, it could be up to 35,000 Canadian dollars in damages or property damage. it can't be more than that. So there are some restrictions, but I have actually met some paralegals who, are doing great and are very happy with this profession. And if you have any questions regarding this program, let me know, and I will try to answer them.